welcome to the Trinity Force Podcast. Yo, it's that Triforce cast beaming straight to your home. Grab a beer so we know Pone ain't drinking alone. Send an email, a quick tweet, just pick up the phone. Leave a message at the beep if you're a creep, watch your tone. Discuss the meta game, patch notes, whatever helps your stats most. Obi Pone Kenobi is your last hope to snatch gold. So grab your headphones and join in the fun. We'll try and force in some jokes and some cringeworthy puns. Yo, we can make it together, people. Trinity Force Podcast. These boys are second to none. Now that's the end of the intro. It's time we begun.
Hey guys, welcome to the Trinity Force Podcast. I'm Adam Ponophobia Cogswell, joined by three other phenomenal guys. Q's back, finally. Done.
What's going on?
Done being whatever Q is. I don't know. I got nothing, man. I'm trying to be snarky. It's not happening tonight, so let's just forget it, okay? Let's forget I said anything.
Okay.
All right, great. MPAC's here and Gavin is here. What up, guys?
What's up, guys?
So, no announcements this week when it comes toward what were they called? Sponsorships, because we're reworking the sponsorships. We have a contest coming up for you guys in the next week or so with the Buddha Boxer guys. So if you're out there looking to buy some boxers, you might want to wait a moment because this is going to be awesome. Basically, it's, if you use the code, you'll get a free pair of boxers along with whatever you buy and have I think it's 20% off your order as well. And we'll be running a giveaway for some Buddha Boxers. So try to get you guys out there getting boxers, covering your butts, making it all nice and smooth. I got a new pair of boxers. They have kitty cats on them. I know you guys are jealous.
I'm more of a dog person, but
they don't have dogs. They have Doom Code. You could have a Hell Fiend Hound thing.
all right, I can dig that.
Pinky. There you go. Anyway, so guys, don't forget to check it out. Patreon.com/DForce Network. $10 a month gets you Champions Select podcast. We have the NA Nasus on. I'm trying to get Heimerdinger as well. Meta Report will be out later this month. Replay reviews, $25 a month. Get your replay review. I think I'm going to drop that replay review price down here. Give you guys more of an opportunity to get out there and get some replay reviews done from us, because I kind of feel like we're at that point where a lot of you could use it, and we've gone on for so long that at this point I might as well just drop the price down and get a bunch of replay reviews in here and get you guys better at this game. So you can ask us questions, and then we can use those for podcast fodder. There's all a plan. So other than that, we're going to start talking about League of Legends tonight. I did want to talk a little bit about top lane, because I know, Gavin, you were mentioning before that you're trying to learn a new champion, and I see a lot of questions out there with people who are like, hey, I play this such and such champion. How should I go about learning it? Can you talk a little bit about what your idea is, how you're going about learning these new champions and potentially what they are as well?
Yeah, so I think I've said in the past that I mained Camille all the way to Plat from about Silver 2, and that was definitely the first time that I learned a champion, I feel like. It started off, I started like really heavily playing the game. I took a bit of a break last year and then started back up probably a month before Worlds, I would say, and then started getting back into watching League, playing League. And basically I saw Camille and I was like, oh, that seems like a cool champion. So I tried her out, fed my ass off. She couldn't even win a game. It was really bad. And then I decided, all right, well, screw this. I'm going to learn this champion. So I started watching a lot of the Best Camille NA Weekend. He streams a lot, and I would watch a lot of his streams. I'd go on the subreddit, kind of read about it, and then I would try and work on individual things kind of one at a time. So the biggest thing I liked to do is I was playing a shit ton of normals and just spamming nothing but Camille into every single matchup, and I was also keeping my runes relatively the same. I think that can be pretty helpful when you first start out, so you get a really good idea of exactly how your champion works in every condition. And then once you got a grasp on that, then you can start varying stuff. So the biggest thing to learn with Camille was how to use her combos, how to do her Q resets, stuff like that. So going and understanding in a practice tool how to kind of line stuff up was big. And then learning kind of how to interact in a lane, when you can fight, when you cannot fight. That's the biggest thing in top lane, I feel like, is learning how to trade properly. So a lot of that kind of practice and a lot of watching high-level streams helps with that as well, because you see things and you hear things that you wouldn't otherwise know just from trying to mess around yourself typically. So that was one of the big things I did, is just watching a lot of streams of high elo and educational too. People who talk a lot about what they do and why they do it, I feel like it's really helpful. And then kind of once you get the idea of how to play the champion down, then you can start experimenting, trying new items out, feel like kind of what works for you the most. And then that's kind of the point, in my opinion, where you start to being able to kind of take that champion into ranked. I didn't play Camille in ranked until I had probably 40 to 50 normal games on her, just learning matchups, figuring out kind of how they play, and then jumping into ranked and starting to kind of flesh it out there. What I've been trying to do in normals is I'm trying to learn Kennen and Jax. Kennen because I want to be able to first pick top lane in a safe way and also have kind of an AP top laner. So I've been seeing a lot of Zeds and Yasuos and stuff in lane lately, in the mid lane at least. So giving a little bit more rounded damage in my team. And it's also just nice to have like a kind of pokey team fight, safe laning champ. So I'm kind of looking into Kennen. I've been enjoying him. And then Jax, I kind of played off and on for a really long time, but never been good at. So I'm trying to kind of iron that out because that is one of the best split pushing champs in the game. And it'd be kind of nice to have kind of that in my pocket as well. So just champs that I enjoy playing, but doing kind of a similar thing. Jax, I watch a lot of TF Blade. He plays Jax. So does Weekend occasionally. Kennen, I'm kind of still just trying to learn kind of on my own. I don't really know any good Kennen streamers right now, but I've been thinking about picking one up to watch. That's kind of how I go about it.
I know Lancifer plays Kennen a lot. He might have an idea who he has watched to learn Kennen a bit better because that's his main. How about either of you other guys, Q or Impact? I know it's a lot of you guys. Q, you learned Malzahar this year, right?
Yeah. I liked your framework of learning there. It's pretty good. I ran my face. You like that, Impact? I ran my face against pretty much every matchup on a Smurf account in ranked. So same thing, right? Not bringing it to big boy league. But eventually after so many matchups and you get familiar with everything and comfortable in the lane, you can just end up doing winning lanes you shouldn't, which is funny in those kind of games. And then trying to, like you said, like kind of same runes, same items, same build, till you get comfortable and you can start throwing different items in and do whatever you want. What about you, Impact? You're a master of like 30?
I know.
Mastery 7 of 30?
I brought this up because I know Gavin just said he's doing it, and plus I like to kind of like warm up the podcast a little different question than jumping right in about like Red Wards and stuff. But Impact, I know that you have a billion champions mastered, and you just slam your face into ranked all day. So at some point you had to stop and like try to learn the champion, right?
So I have this thing that's called like a 7-game rule. So I give it 7 games in flex, and then I take it into ranked because I pretty much feel like in 7 games you should be able to associate the champion with a different champion you play, and like because lots of champions share different mechanics, at least in my opinion. And so like if I'm still struggling after 7 games on a champion, I feel like there's something else that I have a problem with rather than just learning the champion itself. But I don't know. So that's just what I do. So after 7 games in like rank flex or something like that, I feel pretty okay taking the rank. And obviously I'm not like great at the champion at that point, but I find I just learn better when I'm playing against higher ranked players. Like if you jump in face first, you're going to have to adapt pretty quickly or you're just going to keep losing. And that, I don't know, it could also be just my ranked flex and normal MMR is way lower than my solo duo MMR. Like I'm low gold in like rank flex and normals, but when I'm playing solo duo, I'm playing versus diamonds. So I don't know. I just like playing against the higher caliber people, and I feel like I can learn a champion faster that way, even if I struggle more at the beginning.
But I think that's a good point about the 7 games. I think I read a while back. This is when I first started playing again, last year. If you have 10 to 20 games on a champion in ranked and a negative win rate, most likely you're not clicking with that champion. So one thing that I was doing when I was looking through champions, I think I played a lot of pre-rework Aurelia. I played like 4 or 5 different other champions last season trying to figure out one that I liked, and then landed on one that I had above a 50% win rate after 20 games and kind of started playing them. So if you just kind of take a look at your OPGG or one of those other sites, you can kind of actually get an idea of well, maybe this feels good when I'm playing it, but for some reason I'm not winning with it. And that could mean that maybe you just need to go back to the drawing board and take a look at, hey, I'm winning lane, but I'm losing game. I need to figure out how to close out. Or I'm losing lane a whole bunch. I need to figure out how to trade properly, stuff like that. But it's also obviously, like Impact said, the higher people you play against, the better feel you're going to get and the faster you're going to learn. For me with Camille, I was honestly starting at like a silver level. And by that 50th game or so, I was playing against probably plat and diamond top laners in normals just because I was just spamming the shit out of one champ and winning a lot. So definitely when now my MMR is a little higher in normals and then higher in ranked, it's a little more parity to practice with. But definitely the higher level people you practice against, the higher level the practice is going to be. The more you get punished for mistakes and kind of learn what you really can't do and what you can get away with.
I just think it's hard for some players, right? Out there, a lot of the most of our base is generally anywhere between bronze and somewhere high gold at that point. And it's hard for a lot of players to play against people that are better than them when, you know, they're stuck in a specific elo. So it's hard to get a really good feel of a new champion, but I agree with most of you guys. Like jumping in there and playing a champion and just getting a 7-game feel of it is a great way to go, because that's gonna change whether or not you are going to be comfortable playing the champion and enjoy playing it. I know that I've got I actually don't like playing Sivir all that much, and every year I've got above a 60% win rate on that champion, but I can't stand playing her because I find her really uninteractive and boring. So regardless how good my win rate is, if I don't enjoy playing it, I'm not going to learn that champion. But it's interesting just to hear everyone's point of view, how they're going to jump in there and play it. And I know for all of us, what I'd like to, I've been saying this, and now that I'm back from vacation, I'm going to try to get everyone around to do this, but I'd really like to see us jump into rank flex more often, because I think it'll be a good way to force everybody to play against higher caliber players and really put what they're, used to playing in solo queue up against players that are more coordinated. And that really should, in my opinion, increase all of our levels of game, right? And I agree with anybody else out there, or I'd say anybody else out there. If you have 3 friends, play some flex, because you're going to play against higher caliber players, because they're generally be like Impact. You got a gold 4 flex, but you're diamond 5 in solo. So, he should be better than you if you are silver 3, for example.
Yeah, and then people always get afraid, like ranked anxiety. You hear about it, you talk about it. It's really important to get that out in the flex. Understand that you can't win them all, and it's cool. We'll just tank games and flex and have a good time. It's fine.
There's no tanking. This is strict hardcore. Porkers is gone all week. I need Porkers here to jungle for me. I've had a really hard time jungling, forever. I no matter how many times I talk to you guys about shit on the podcast, and no matter how many podcasts I've done, I still can't get pathing down in the jungle. I think I'm doing really well. I'm feeding my top laner. My top laner uses their advantage to lose, and then I'm like, well, I just wasted all my fucking time for nothing when I could have been bot saving them, And I feel like that's my plight as a jungler, and the reason I can't play it, because I always pick the wrong person to feed.
So my pathing.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, I think it's really easy to talk about the logic of jungle and to say this is what you should do, and then it's so much harder to actually do it. Because I'm the same way. I can sit here all day and be like, yeah, this is what you should. You got a path. You got to balance your farming and your ganking, and then I'll go into a game and just not do that. Just not have no idea what to do and just be milling around my blue buff when it's not up. Be like, okay, well, this isn't working.
Yeah, my pathing on the jungle is pretty poor, so my recommendation is play Ivern, because he's always different on pathing than everybody else. So it doesn't matter if you're doing it wrong, because maybe you're doing it right.
I've just been trying to get a good idea of when I can gank at level 3 or 4, and then I think what I need to do is just stop after I feed or I get a flash, and then maybe I go back and get the kill. I just need to leave that lane alone for almost ever. Top lane, right? I go in and get a flash. All right, maybe I need to leave that lane alone. Or maybe I need to go back and gank for him and get that top laner a kill. Now I just need to leave top lane alone for the rest of eternity and focus all my time bot. But then something happens where I have to hold mid, or, it's just there's so many variables that I'm just terrible at it. I know I'm bitching at this point, but I want to learn jungle so badly and I can't do it. I just can't.
Yeah, I always think it's a really easy role until I go to play it, and I'm just I think I'm a decent jungler. It's not my strongest role, but I think I have an okay time. But there are very few jungle games when I'm I hard carried this game.
Right.
I'm normally like just playing at a level adequate enough to get by, whereas opposed like I'm never the one like I don't know. I'm never that Kha'Zix that's 17-2.
Well, dude,
That's not me.
last night I played a game of Skarner. I was 3-1-4 when we surrendered at 20 minutes. I'm winning my jungle. I'm doing great. But everyone else is feeding their ass off. So what do you do, right? And I know that's the plight of the jungler.
It's hard.
But so speaking of junglers, and the reason I brought this up is because I want to talk about the red trinket. If you guys watch LCS, you'll notice that there's a lot of red trinkets and there's a lot of red wards that are used. And something that I do, but I don't think about telling you guys out there to do, is that when we're using, I'm going to skip to the red wards, for example. If you watch LCS, a lot of times they drop red wards and they never touch the enemy ward that they have now disabled. And that's something that I don't think a lot of people realize that the red ward does, no matter how many times we scream at you, is that the red ward, when dropped, disables enemy wards that that get dropped in that zone, and you don't have to spend the time killing that ward. You can just walk right past it; they'll never see you. And another thing here is really the red trinket is. I know we all use oracles and we all use it to try to clear wards or whatever, but there's some tips and tricks to red trinket that I think we should all keep in mind. And the primary one being you can actually use it to scout bushes. By just turning it on, you see the outline of the enemy champion in the bush, and you can have then you know either I'm going in this or I'm staying away from it. And I can't tell you the last time I've seen anybody else do that, besides like myself, right? Like I just don't think people think to use red ward in that fashion, or red trinket, I should say. There's also go ahead.
It's a different way to use it like that, but definitely you should be. But it's really hard to get into the habit of like conceptualizing this is a trinket that denies vision, but you can also use it to maybe not gain vision, but gain map awareness. So it's just once you like start doing it, it's going to be a lot easier to continue doing it because it is very, very helpful. It's basically like a really short blue trinket, but it allows you not to have to face check, which like late game that can cause you to lose like the entire game. So yeah, it's something that can take a while to get started in, but it's really, really helpful.
And on top of that, it also masks your path. If you start it before you walk into ward vision, you deny that ward's vision and they can't see you walk through it. Granted, the ward will lose vision for the moment, but you can walk right past a ward and continue to gank a lane, and so they can't see exactly where you're at when you're walking through it, which is a really good idea. Don't use the trinket, just run right past shit. I do it all the time if I'm trying to jungle. I try to use it by running through lanes or running through rivers so they can't see me. I also use it to scout bushes because obviously I don't have a ward, so I can't preemptively ward a lane bush as somebody's running toward it. But I can show you where they're at in the bush, or an idea where they're at in the bush to have a better chance of hitting them, or if you have an understanding of if it's a collie, where did she jump to? That's some stupid horse shit. But was it Quentin that put this in here? Wanted to talk about when to swap to it or when should buy it?
That was me.
Oh, really?
Oh,
I did that, liar.
Wait, no, I definitely put that into.
I typed that in there.
Oh my god! Fight!
Well, I was thinking like, who should buy it? Are there cases where two people should have it, like say Teemo or other nonsense, where there's other things on the map?
So I've seen if you're kind of like a LeBlanc, a Zed, champions like that, maybe less so Zed because of Dustblade, but buying a red trinket if you're an assassin and just sweeping a few bushes and kind of hanging around that makes really easy picks in the mid to late game, especially if you're transitioning between 2 or 3 turrets that your team's sieging, or just around objectives, catching out of supports and stuff. So in an aggressive sense, I feel like that's really good for assassins, but then obviously your supports want it, and then depending on how much vision the rest of your team is putting out, it can be helpful to have maybe 1 or 2 other people pick it up. But typically as a top laner, I stick to the blue and the yellow, mainly yellow, just to have as much vision as possible on the map.
Unless you're playing Garen, then it's always red.
Actually, you gotta camp the bushes.
I like red ward on a lot of top laners. I know that if like you're split pushing hard, you're Jax, you might want that extra vision to see if you can do it. But I really like red ward because a lot of times if I'm playing top, I'm that guy sitting in the bush or walking through the jungle hoping that I can use it to my advantage. And I don't want them to know that I'm in there, or, to stop them from knowing I'm in there, I suppose. But I do believe that junglers should be picking it up a lot sooner. Like pretty much on first back, you should be picking up your oracles rather than sticking to the yellow trinket, because it makes ganks and all that so much more impactful. Sneaking dragons and whatnot, you can use it for that too. And that's what we're talking about. Red boards, like these are such high impact having items in the game that if you don't understand their full ability, I don't think, like, it's almost a waste of time to buy them or use them, because you're not getting the most out of what Riot is giving you. Excuse me.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
So kind of bouncing off of what you said, like when to swap to it. When I juggle, I like try to make sure I at least have like a pink ward all the time until I swap to it. And I try to swap to it at least by like level 6. So that's probably like right around first back, or maybe a little after, just depending on what's going on in the game. And you'll, like, if you're getting invaded a lot, maybe it's better for you to have like extra wards. So like just play around with the game and see what's going on. But just keep it in mind, like, hey, at some point I'm going to need to swap to this. And then just consciously think, when is a good time to swap? What am I losing by getting rid of these yellow wards? And what am I gaining? And then you can kind of weigh the pros and cons to see which one you want to do.
Well, people always ask us, what can I do when I'm at work besides watching streams to have a better understanding of this game? And if you're playing any champion, just thinking about times of when you had a ward or when you didn't, or just looking at your ward and what you're using it for and how you're using it, it's pretty easy to step back and go, okay, last night I only had the yellow ward and I only used it to ward my side brushes, and maybe I warded once or twice here, but I never really got anything out of it. And then, you can start breaking down from there. Was my problem with the yellow ward the fact that I didn't use it, or is the fact that I'm not paying attention to the minimap? And I think you can start to use these to your advantage to help you have a better understanding of what you're doing. And I know it seems like a trivial part of the game, but warding and using trinkets, no matter what kind of trinket is can so heavily swing different phases of the game that is a piece that you should be taking a serious look at.
Yeah. And also, so you said like maybe you're not like utilizing the ward after you place it. It's important to realize you don't have to just ward bushes. That's something like I used to do a while ago, is if there was a bush, I would ward it. And I would never think to ward like part of a lane, or maybe like an area of the map where there isn't a bush, because lots of times if you're warding a bush and you're by the bush, once you see them on that ward, it might be too late. So like mid lane, like maybe you put a control ward in a side bush close to you, but maybe it's more beneficial to put like a yellow ward a little bit past the river, because then you have like a little more time to realize it. And yeah, you won't know that he's in that bush just sitting there, but you can play like he is until you spot the jungler somewhere else. So I think it's really important, like, ward in places where it's going to help you instead of warding in places where all you're gaining is vision of a smaller area.
Yeah, and especially when you're going against certain champions like Shaco and stuff. Like, you can't ward a brush against Shaco. You'll just die. You got to go deeper than that. So depends on who you're playing against too.
Yeah, or same with Kha'Zix, because he can ult as he's going into the brush and you won't see him.
Man, warding lanes. That's I love warding all the lanes, mid lane, top lane, everywhere. I like to put a ward down there so I know when the person's coming back, or if they've walked a certain place. I know mid lane is super popular for it, but if you're walking in the mid game, drop your trinket just right down smack dab middle of the middle lane.
Yeah, that also helps you. Like, let's say I'm playing like an immobile mage versus an assassin mid lane. It's really risky for me to walk up if I don't have vision of him to see if he's still there. Where if I have a ward there, you're going to be able to tell when he roams without walking up and putting yourself in danger. So it's really helpful to help call ganks for your side lanes.
Yeah, as long as you're dropping these wards in a kind of a travel path, I feel like you can get a lot of value out of them. Whereas just if you're just warding bushes to ward bushes, a lot of the time it's going to help when someone's in that bush, but it's not going to help a lot more of the time. And then something I think you guys mentioned a while back in one of the old podcasts was combat warding, especially for like 80 carries.
Oh, yes.
If you're in a team fight and there's a bush near that team fight, drop a ward the bush. Almost always someone's going to step in that bush, and if you lose sight of them, I can't tell you how many times I've lost sight of someone and then gotten killed by him because they got that half second to second in that bush to get a cooldown, to reposition, to get an auto off on me or whatever it is. So getting that extra little bit of vision can make the difference in a lot of fights too. So that can be helpful as well.
That's why I mentioned earlier as a jungler when I'm walking up there using my red trinket, I'm at least trying to get an idea where they're at if they run in the lane bush. But a number of times, if it's early, I'm not dropping my ward in the jungle or in the enemy jungle. I'm using it to assist in a gank because I need to know where that person's at. If you think about it this way, with how important it is that if you let's say you start your auto attack and lose vision of somebody, that's an extra 1 point whatever seconds that it takes to wind up that auto attack and hit them, and that might be enough time where they either have a faster auto or a faster ability that they're getting off. They're killing you with it because your auto attack timer gets reset, and not everybody has a sub 1 second attack. We're not 80 carries in the first 10 minutes of the game. But yeah, warding bushes, man. Combat warding is so crucial to this game that it's going to turn your fights around. Honestly, it's going to turn around everything you're doing. I know a lot of you complain about team fights that happen in the lower elos going in the mid game or whatever it may be, and combat warding I think it turns that game around. It really turns on its head. And here's someone faded in chat. He writes, he goes, one thing I've noticed in pro play is setting a control ward by the blast cone. If you are a red side or bot lane, it cancels out the blue side yellow ward that might place in that bush to ward if you're pushed up, and it forces them to make a risky path to try and kill it. And that's a phenomenal advice as well. You can place those red wards in spots that are actually disabling other wards that you wouldn't normally disable because of the radius of it.
Yeah, very true.
And this all hinges on the fact that you're actually watching the minimap and you are paying attention to your wards.
Yeah, that's one of the most important things. If you're not watching your minimap, those wards that you're spending gold on, the pinks, the trinket that you're using to place a ward doesn't really exist in essence. You got to be paying attention to what's going on. One of the things I've heard that I've been trying to do is every time you're actively actually last hitting a minion, not necessarily as you go up to last hit it, but as the animation's going through, glance at your minimap every single time. Because there's nothing you're going to do while that auto attack's happening or that ability cast is happening. But if you glance at your minimap and as you're last hitting, you see their jungler coming in on you or going in on a different lane, then all of a sudden you can do a trade or run away or something like that. That can be really helpful too. So you don't want to stare at the minimap while you walk up and then get heavily traded on and die, but you also don't want to tunnel in on a minion and then have a jungler walk up behind you and kill you. So
I think I did that the other night. Wasn't even paying attention where my character was at. I've done it a number of times. You're pressing tab or looking at the buy, and suddenly you're in the middle of a team fight. You go, oh shit!
Yeah.
So I found this question, and I really like this question. Is that what should I be doing when I'm the only person on my team who hasn't fed the enemy? And I think this goes along with last night, that 3-1-4 Skarner game I had. Right, when I was playing that game, I was actively trying to make picks or turn team fights around or make objective calls, for example. But my teammates wouldn't pay attention to me, and instead they all decided to surrender at 20 instead of paying attention to what I'm doing. But if I'm playing marksman, I'm gonna go there because that's more what I play. I'm trying to just sit in a side lane, or I'm trying to sit in a non-precarious spot and get as much farm as I can to be able to make it back into the game. But I think the number one thing you do is just don't die. Just don't feed the enemy more.
Yeah, I think try to keep morale up on your team, maybe for the comeback. Try to see a win condition if there is one, if you're going to scale into late game and that's going to win it for you, or if you're just kind of in for it, right? There's a lot of different situations that you can come across. Go for objectives, go for picks. Don't feed. So try not to die.
Yeah, I think it kind of depends on if you didn't feed and are even, or if you didn't feed and are ahead. If you're the person on your team that's 6-0 and the rest of your team fed, try and use your power, whether that's AD carry to counter sieges, whether that's your jungler to get picks if you're a pick jungler, your mid laner to kind of support your teammates. Basically, try to play to your strengths without overextending, and try and play around your team, because while your team is going to be behind and their team's going to be behind, you on your own against an entire enemy team isn't typically going to work if they're all ahead. So this is kind of a, if you're behind, try and collapse a lot is what I like to do. Because a lot of time people who are ahead try and go off and do their own thing. If you can collapse on that person in a side lane and do that 4 or 5 times, all of a sudden you're right back in the game. And it's kind of trying to bring your team up with you rather than just having yourself be the only strong point if you can.
That's really.
I think,
go ahead.
I think morale, like Q was saying, is pretty important because you can't win a game if your team doesn't want to play. So I mean, you can't really control how they feel, but just don't flame your team. Like, generally, everybody's trying to do their best in ranked. I mean, there are some times where you have that fiddlesticks just running it down, but besides that, like, generally everyone's trying to do their best. So just keep that in mind and know, like, hey, it's just a rough game they're having, and just focus on like what can you do in the moment rather than like don't put others down. Because if you put them down, then they're not going to want to play, and then you don't have a chance of winning. So
Yeah, and if people rage, you could, what I've been telling them is just play. You know, it's a game. Just play it out. We'll be fine. Just play. And sometimes they rage more, and sometimes they rage less. I don't know, but
yeah.
I try.
Yeah, and if you're gonna try and tell your teammates to do things, don't tell them to do things. Make suggestions or general comments saying quit fighting is a lot hard or a lot more difficult to get across than saying, hey, they're pretty strong right now, we should do this, which is, hey, we should back off, we should give up these turrets, versus saying, you guys fed them too much, we can't fight them. Saying, hey, I think they're kind of strong, we should do blank, can be a lot easier for people to take. No one likes being told that they're the reason they're losing, or basically someone's mad, saying negative things typically just makes them matter. So as positive as you can spin it, if you're going to type to people, the better it's going to be.
Just don't type. I don't like. Man, that's my problem. It'll be a normal. It'll be late at night, 1 o'clock in the morning. I have a couple beers in me, and I'll sit there and I'll go, "No, you noob," or something. You know, like. Then I'll be like, "Oh wait, I should probably stop doing this." I'm just.
Don't be keyboard warriors. It's fine. Just play.
We all know Q's a keyboard warrior. So
I'm not.
He acts tough.
I will talk trash when I play Mouse Hour. So
anyway, I always got to find a way to call you out at least once over something stupid. I don't know why. You've become my scapegoat, or my whipping boy, I should say.
That's fine.
Podcast. But yeah, I like that question because I think it's just like a good exercise in being a good person. There's a billion different things that you can do in a specific scenario. Calling Dragon, calling for Rift Herald, using Rift Herald to try to take down mid turret to open the game up, etc. But it all comes down to you becoming a leader and trying to get people to rally behind you. And it can be very hard because you may not know what you're doing. But honestly, make a call and make the team follow you, because if it was the wrong call, you're probably losing the game anyway, right? Let's say you make a call, we're going for Baron right now, and you lose it, but now you've learned something. You've learned for next time that if I'm down, making that call for Baron probably isn't the right idea. And you could use that as a way to analyze your gameplay. Okay, I'm down, I've lost on my outer turrets, I'm making a call for Dragon while top lane split pushes top side. Is that the right call? Well, we'll find out. And there's no better way to learn than failure, so do it.
Yeah, especially when you're behind. That's a great time to just be like, well, we're probably going to lose anyway. Let's try something. You know, maybe it works and out of nowhere you guys are suddenly winning, or maybe it doesn't and you lose anyway. But there's not that risk of, oh, we're ahead, let's try something. It's well, we're probably going to lose, so maybe this works, maybe it doesn't. And then, like you said, you learn something, hopefully.
That's what we're all here for, right? You got to learn something every game. I learned that I really enjoy playing Garen, but only into silver players. If I have to play in anybody else, I'm garbage. All right, I want to talk about a question that came in earlier, a few weeks ago. Daniel, he had wrote in. He wants to know about jungling and Dragon priority. He says, I've gotten criticism from teammates recently over ignoring Dragon. Last game, someone threw shade my way since no one had taken a single Dragon Mountain at 18 minutes. I will always take a free drag, usually following 1 or 2 kills near the Dragon Pit, but I don't usually modify my pathing unless it is a Infernal. Should I prioritize Dragon more, or am I right in ignoring non-Infernal Dragons? Well, I'll start the conversation off by saying I think you're wrong by ignoring non-Infernal Dragons, because every dragon has a use. Even air has a phenomenal use for you, right? Or wind, or whatever the fuck it's called.
Fast Drake.
Yeah, fast Drake. And now it's at the point where it's actually worthwhile taking. It might not be worthwhile taking later in the game. Like if you are at a point where you can set up denying that dragon. You can set up denying the Elder Dragon spawn by keeping a Wind Drake on the map, or any kind of Drake that's not Infernal on the map, then that's good. But there's only specific scenarios where that's applicable. But you should be prioritizing like Ocean Drake, for example, if you've got a mage, if you got more than one mage in the game, or more than one heavy mana user. Camille, I gotta imagine she loves the mana, right? So you can spam your W all day, every day.
W's and E's. Super mobile, super pokey. It's always helpful.
Mm-hmm. Your Maltahar loves it, even though he's getting free mana back. Your supports love it. The Ocean, hell, your AD carries love it because it allows them to stay in the games more often. Everybody loves Ocean Drake, and that should be heavily prioritized if you can get it without losing anything. Mountain Drake, if you have a Baron taking team or you have an objective taking team, you have to have Mountain Drakes because you take all objectives faster with Mountain Drake. And since I'm standing in my soapbox, I'm going to step down and let you guys probably say a few more things that I could say, so I don't monopolize the conversation here.
Drake is overpowered, and you should get it. Yep.
I mean, Drakes are pretty much free stats, right? It's not like the old days where a Drake is worth a bunch of gold, but you still kind of have to see it as, depending on the Drake and depending on the game, it's almost a tower, but it's a neutral tower, right? It's kind of like Rift Herald. These objectives are still objectives, even if they're not direct gold in your pocket or direct hurt to the enemy team. You got to look at when is it that you can take a dragon without sacrificing too much somewhere else. It's not always, well, we cleared their bot lane and mid lane and now we have an absolutely free one. Sometimes you have to be like, well, there's a good chance I can get this and I can get it for my team and it's going to help, or there's not a good chance, and kind of evaluate that. I don't think you should treat them as I only take this if it's free or infernal. I think you should kind of treat it as, is this something that I can take without my team getting punished for it? For instance, their jungler is top lane and you have vision on him, or he's just backed and you saw him back and your bot lane's pushed or your mid's pushed, or you're just generally winning one of those two lanes. You can kind of take a dragon, and where it's not free, it's not a bad move, and it's probably a higher than 50% play. And that's kind of, I think, where you need to view it, as a strong neutral objective that should be prioritized when the opportunity cost isn't too high.
It can kind of depend on your team comp too, whether or not you need to prioritize it. Like, if you have a comp that's really bad at taking objectives, maybe you should prioritize the Mountain Drake. Maybe you don't have a lot of consistent damage and you're more burst damage. That Mountain Drake is going to help you take other things along the way. And then kind of snowballing off of what Gavin was saying, you never want to give something up for free. And so that may be why you're not prioritizing Dragon, is maybe you're trying to be elsewhere to stop something else from happening. But I think it's just important to realize you need to analyze, what are you going to lose by taking this Drake? If you're going to lose your blue buff for taking Drake, maybe that's worth it. But maybe you're going to lose top tower in its first turret for a Cloud Drake. Maybe that's not worth it. So it's just really important to analyze, what are you going to lose and what are you going to gain, and you just want to do whatever's going to be most beneficial down the road.
And I think on the flip side of that, if you are going to lose top tower, let's say they Shen support some top laner and some jungler, those two don't really matter, and this Shen ults in top lane, and you got 3 people top lane diving and killing your top laner and looking at tower, and your bot side, go for Dragon. I mean, if you're going to have a man advantage there, if you think it's safe enough to, and you guys aren't too far behind, that can be instead of just losing top turret and farming up your jungle, all of a sudden you're losing top turret but getting a dragon, or losing top turret and maybe going for bot turret. But try and, like Impact said, always get something for something. Don't give up things for nothing if you can avoid it.
Exactly.
I was looking up here because I can't remember the exact stats on Mountain Drake. What is it? Sorry, I'm looking it up here. Sorry, I know that's bad. I couldn't remember the exact amount that it gave for the bonus that you get for getting it.
Is it like 10, 20, 30 or something?
I think it is, yeah. I think that's right.
And I think on where Impact said that if you have a bad objective taking team, it's really good. I also think it's insanely good if you have like a really good objective taking team, right? It's really those extremes that the mountain shines when you got like a Cassiopeia or some other really high DPS somewhere where you can just burn down dragons really fast, or barons and turrets, I guess less so. But if you can burn down a baron with 3 mountains and a baron taking team, that's insanely good. Or if you have a really bad baron taking team, but you have 3 mountains, that kind of covers up that weakness. So like you said, team comp dependent a lot of times.
So I'm not sure if this will convince you one way or the other, Daniel, but I don't know how reliable this is, but a site called League of Graphs, it breaks down patches based on statistics. And so as of patch 8.15, the winning team has gotten the first Drake 69% of the time.
Dude, that's been that way since the Dragon gave global gold. The first team to take Dragon and get that global gold was the winningest team. I mean, that's I like that, and I think that was good to bring up. But what I'm trying to say is it's always been that way. So like if Daniel didn't know that was like that's perfect information that you need to take Dragons.
I didn't know that. I wouldn't have thought it was that high. I would have thought maybe 55% for the first Drake. But yeah, the team 67% of the time, if you have first Drake, you're gonna win. I mean, obviously not that black and white, but generally.
I mean, that's 19% that I guess with statistics, you're not like technically getting 19% better chance of winning, right? But you're following kind of that trend, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, you're performing actions that teams that win perform.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everything we've told you is actions that teams that win perform. Warding, using Red Ward, using Sweeper.
Playing Malzahar.
Okay, let's calm down. Let's calm down.
Banning Zoe and Jhin. Mm-hmm.
Playing Zoe.
Banning Zoe and Jhin. Playing Nunu when he gets reworked because all reworked champions are always OP. What else? There's more.
That trailer was awesome, by the way. If you haven't watched it, guys, you should go check it out.
Trailer out?
Yeah,
I gotta check.
Yeah, it was a long trailer too. I thought it was one of their best ones.
It was very cute. It was very Pixar or Disney-esque.
Yeah, it was very film-like rather than just, I don't know.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, they're reworking Nunu, and the trailer is now Willump. It's Willump, right? Nunu is the little dude. Willump is the
Willump,
and he's always been that way. He's always been those two, but they're making more of a distinction between the two of them than previous. So I say it's Disney-esque because you have the monster and the little kid, is friends with the monster running around. And the little kid's just super chatterbox. It's adorable. Go watch it. It's like 2.5 minutes. You watch it before you go and get your groceries tonight. All right. So he also continues on. There's a lot of jungle questions here, and I like all these. Keep these type of questions going. So he says, I feel like junglers holding towers was recently nerfed due to Riot trying to stop gold funneling. I've only played a few games in this patch, but I've already seen lame gold amounts when holding towers for recently killed teammates. Typically, we'll go out of my way to hold a tower, but now it seems to be much less worth it since I make more gold farming camps. If I'm ahead, should I prioritize farming jungle camps and ganking over holding the lane? If you can hold a tower, hold a tower.
Yeah, it's not about the money; it's about the experience loss in game. That's why you need to hold it. Because if you're not there, or if no one is there, rather, then the XP goes to waste. If you are there, it's not. So you can get that, and then go to your camps and get the XP there, and then overall have more XP and have a higher level, and then have a higher chance of winning the game.
And I feel like especially for junglers, XP is a lot of times worth more than gold, at least early. So that can be just absolutely huge. And as a top laner, I know if I'm in a matchup and I do something real dumb, take a real bad trade, and I have to back, if my jungler isn't there to hold that wave, there's a chance I lose the tower, or at least lose a few hundred health on the tower. So that's a whole other part of it too, is that by holding a tower, you're holding that tower. You're not just getting gold, you're not just getting XP. You're keeping health on that tower to make it last longer and to deny more gold and map control from your opponent. So the other kind of trade-off downside of that is if you're holding the lane, then the other team knows where you are. So that can kind of suck, but there's a lot of good benefits that kind of come from holding towers, especially with really large waves.
You should be holding the tower just not to give it up. Like, dropping a tower means your laner, in whatever lane it is now at a deficit, and they are they're stuck there even longer than they were previously. They don't have the benefit of being able to roam around as often as the enemy does. You've given global gold to everybody by taking that tower, and a lot of local gold. I mean, it's more local gold than anything, but you've given the local, all of that local gold to that person. And on top of that, it's just, I really like the idea that Q brought up about experience. It's not something that a lot of people value in this game, is all of the free experience you can get by holding a lane or just being in a lane. And
I don't remember what the exact statistic was, but I think it was like each level is worth at least a couple hundred gold worth of stats. So valuing experience is something that I think a lot of people undervalue. I know there is a game, this was a while back, a month or two ago, that I was playing with some friends, and we were behind, and then we came back and won, and all my friends were like, wow, how'd we win that? And I said, well, just look at our levels. Every single one of us has like 2 levels on every single other character. You take 200 gold per level, that's 1,000 gold we're up just right there. So I mean, it makes a big difference when you think about it, that these levels, without even counting in the abilities and the base damages, just these free stats that you get from leveling up, XP is probably one of the most important things in the game.
I agree.
Go ahead.
I see a lot of lower elo players and trying to fight people that are 3-4 levels up on them, and that to me is facepalm, because that's the one thing you look at before items, like, right? It's the snap judgment of, can I fight this guy? Well, what's his level? If he's 3 levels below you, probably. If he's 3 levels ahead of you, probably not, unless you have some kind of weird item advantage, right? So that's what I do. I just say, can I fight him? No? Okay, cool.
That's why you love bot lane, right, Q? Always 2 levels behind everyone else.
Right. He's heard my rants. I rage at bot because it's like I share, and I don't like that. It's dumb. I'm behind. I want to go back mid and play Malzahar. That way I can just XP out the game and kill everybody.
Yeah, I'm really sick. I am sick of that, though, is that the players who don't pay attention to the enemy level, and it's always balls to the wall no matter what. And I think that's what gets a lot of you bronze players, the ones that write us and say, why is there always fighting happening? And you get a lot of experience for killing people, and then you get a lot more experience for taking down everything else after you win that team fight. And if you just kind of like pump the brakes and don't always engage those team fights, or don't always do those 2v3s, you might have a better opportunity to win the game. I saw it last night. I saw a 3 level down Yasuo trying to take on a Cho'Gath, and he did fairly well, but he was never going to win that fight, because after you blow your initial salvo, and it may have taken him down to under half life, you don't do anything. You get eaten, literally. Right? So they pay attention to the levels. Levels are huge in this game. Experience is huge, and it's not something that enough of us pay attention to. But put my glasses back on so I can actually read the next part of the question, huh? So the one last part of this question is, I've been branching out in assassin-style junglers, Nocturne, to be specific. One situation I'm struggling with, I cannot talk tonight. One situation I am struggling with is what to do after a kill if I am low on health. I typically look to do an objective, but with squishier champions, I find myself at less than half health after kills and am wondering if I should back. Could you take me through your thought process after getting a kill at a risky health amount?
So I think it's really important to know who can come to you. If you're half health, but there's no one on the map, then you can do whatever you want, as long as whatever you're doing isn't going to kill you. So, like, let's say you gank bot, and you have a quarter HP. Like, that seems low, but if you killed both bot laners and the jungler, you're probably free to take the rest of your bot side jungle back and then go top. Where if you gank bot, let's say you have half of your life, you kill both bot laners, but your 2 bot laners die, you're the last one remaining, and you don't kill their jungler, there's a chance their jungler could come to you. And so then you have to think a little more carefully about what can you do right here, because there's somebody up who is like capable of killing you or stopping whatever you're doing at least. So I think it's just important to know who can stop you, and then it gets a lot easier from there. So maybe don't do Drake if their jungler is alive, you don't have vision on him and you're low, but maybe you're still okay to go get your red buff and then back. Like, is you want to get as much as you can before you back, just so you're not wasting time.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is just know what can happen. If you're sitting there, you have 5 health left, but the entire enemy team's dead. You can take towers. You can take, well, depending on if you have lifesteal and healing, whatever. I mean, that's a pretty stark example, but if you have very little health, but there's nothing that can punish you, you can take whatever you want. But if you have higher health and there's the entire team up and you don't know where they are, you can get punished very heavily. So, like, impacts that. You just got to know where the enemy laner's at, where's the jungler at, what is actually safe to take.
And I don't know how many times I've said, like, after I kill my opposing mid laner, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to greed for this wave, I'm going to get punished. And there's the jungler right there, kills me. So it's like, it's knowing and doing are different things. So.
Yeah.
I like to go along the checklist as a jungler of, do I have lifesteal in my kit? Nocturne does, because of his passive. And do I have smite available? Because smite is going to automatically give you some of your life back as well. So if I am able to check at least one of those off, where I've either his lifesteal or I have smite up, I may continue jungling because I'll be able to sustain. Also, do I have potions available? And can I take Scuttle Crab? Because Scuttle Crab's basically free sustain, since you'll be auto attacking it. But
or the fruits thingies, right?
Yes, are the fruits in the river available? That's another good one. You have to do it. You have to make all these. You have to ask yourself these questions and answer them fairly quickly to continue moving on. But these all succeed asking yourself, am I at my break point to be able to return and get an item that is going to significantly impact the next X number of minutes of the game?
That's a really good point I didn't think of either. Yeah, let's say you get those 2 kills in the bot lane and that jungler kill, and your Nocturne, and you can back and get Warrior, you can back and get Dustblade, or you can back and get whatever item you buy on Nocturne that's going to make your next gank or your next play that much stronger. Is it better to stick around and delay that power spike for another 45 seconds to 2 minutes while you clear your full jungle, or take a dragon or take a tower, or is it better to back and get that spike and get back out on the map?
And generally, it's better to get the spike and head back on the map, unless you are a couple 100 gold or 100 gold short of like boots, or maybe you want an extra 75 gold for a ward. But even then, that's tough to say. I would say really you're looking at break-even points. I can now finish my Smite'em, and I can pick up boots after killing one more camp. I'm going to go do it because boots are so important for me to have. Or can I finish both? You get the idea. I can run down a whole different 100 scenarios here for it. But yeah, looking at break-even items, looking at what's in your kit, and trying to decide, what am I going to do next? Talking yourself through the game as if you're a streamer helps a lot in these scenarios and will make you a better player, because you'll be able to make the decisions, and you have to justify to yourself why you're making the decisions. You all look dead.
Huh. Dude, it's a Monday, man.
Yeah, I feel you. I had a 2.5 hour nap today. How does that make you guys feel?
I work 11 hours today.
Yeah.
I work some.
I work 48 hours this week, so it's all good. I do 4 12s this week, so it'll be a fun week. Yeah, it's every week. It's 3 12s and 4 12s, but then it's 4 off and 3 on. So, it has its perks. But anyway. All right. Well, that's pretty much it for that. Do you guys have anything else you want to add to this week's discussion before, I kind of close it out a little early? Nothing?
Did you guys talk about Stormrazor at all last week?
Mm-hmm.
Like after we touched on it originally?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I did see a Stormrazor Dustblade Rengar yesterday or the day before.
And how was it?
Scary. It was one-shotting everything, but that's about to go away. So
I generally thought like the Stormrazor wasn't as terrible, like because I thought it was going to be a lot worse, but I feel like it's fine at the price it's at now. I still think it's too low, but I don't think it killed the game.
I think it just crowds out your other choices. I don't think Essence Reaver is going to see play until it drops significantly in cost, or Stormrazor increases significantly. And I think that's the only other
Blade of the Ruin King.
Blade of the Ruin King. Although that's still pretty cheap too, right? Stormrazor's just
3,200. So just Stormrazor's
Oh, is it 32?
Yeah, Stormrazor's 400 gold cheapper than anything.
Okay, yeah. Then I feel like it just kind of crowds out your other options.
And it does.
Yeah, unless you have synergy with Bork.
Even then, you're better off with Stormrazor. Just because how much
I'm not gonna say always. I still think Ashe needs work. But
maybe third item. Ash is going to go Storm Razor first item. Always, because it's just cheaper. You delay your power spike. It's why like Ezreal doesn't do so well right now. We saw him get picked a couple times in pro play this weekend, and he never really blew everybody out of the water.
I'm not a fan of him.
Yeah, at any point in time where you have your, they have Storm Razor and you have Metamune, they are still more powerful than you are because they're doing critical strike damage and you're just doing nothing.
Right, your 2-item spike isn't the fast spike anymore. It's the standard / slow spike now.
Yeah, we talked about Storm Razor. I want to say it was last Wednesday, and the consensus was that Storm Razor is in a fine spot. And I mean, like I admitted, I was wrong. I was really afraid of Assassins coming back and using it being so cheap, but that didn't seem to happen. And admittedly, it does feel pretty good to have it at this point. It is, but something has to give with like Jhin, and because Jhin is just overcrowding everybody right now when it comes to bottom lane because of how
same with Draven.
Yeah, and Draven too, but. You see Jhin has a higher pick rate than Draven. Jhin's got a 30% pick rate.
Yeah, he's getting played all the time.
That's insane.
I haven't even checked today what it was, but like last
32.5.
32%, 2.5. Oh my god.
At least what I'm looking at, yeah, with a 51.5 win rate.
See, that's insane. 51.5 with it. I mean, technically, I think Riot actually says it's really good. That's actually a pretty decent spot for the champion to be in with that because you're not 54% win rate, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
I just don't think it should be there with that many people playing it.
But there's that.
That's the crazy thing.
Quinn's at a 54.5 with a 2% play rate. That's pretty high.
And a 23% ban rate.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that was the consensus in patch was that basically that Jhin overcrowds everybody, and if you could tune back Jhin alone when it comes to Storm Razor, then it's in a fine spot.
Yep, I agree.
So, all right. Well, we're gonna end it there. We're about 55 minutes in. We're about 5 minutes short, but we'll be all right. You guys will have patch notes. I called last week patch notes, but I forgot they switched my cycle around on me. So, Vrail's gonna be hosting the podcast on Wednesday. Y'all be doing patch notes. I'll be at work. Good luck with that. Other than that,
cool.
guys, I think that ends it. Guys, thanks so much for listening to the podcast, and we will see you all on Wednesday. Have a good one. Peace.
Goodbye.
Later.
See ya.